When it comes to the polarizing designs of the Pokemon featured in black and white, the individual constantly brought up as the single irredeemable Pokemon is the one made out of literal garbage. I actually kinda like it though. Trubbish and Garbodor, two poison-type Pokemon that made their debut in Generation 5. Because these were the final Pokemon games before we moved on to worldwide releases, they came out in Japan months before they were released internationally, so fans with an internet connection were able to see the entire Pokédex for themselves in advance. And while there were a bunch of cool new Pokemon that captured my imagination immediately, there was one that I started to slowly appreciate based on the design alone, and yep, it was Trubbish. A weird little garbage bag with a face and trails of waste spilling out from the sides to represent arms. And apparently it's also a cat because Pokemon included it with other cats? Anyway, it wasn't until the full game came out that the general consensus on the new batch of Pokemon was that this guy was the worst. And honestly, fair opinion, but I think these two are a fun idea. It's no secret that several Pokemon from Generation 5 were meant to tread similar ground to the original 151. So Trubbish and Garbodor make the obvious counterparts to Grimer and Muck. Or I guess you could say coughing and wheezing. All three evolution lines rounded out the theme of pollution in various forms. Water pollution, air pollution, and now land pollution. The concept of poison-type Pokemon makes for an interesting conundrum, because after you make poisonous plants or venomous animals, where do you go from there? Even in Generation 1, right out the gate, they establish that the idea extends to abstract representations of waste or just straight up waste. I will say that, yeah, Garbodor is rightfully an ugly Pokemon. That's the point of it, but it is also kind of funny how they design a Pokemon to be so intentionally off-putting with both the premise and the clashing shapes and colors, but somehow it kind of turns back around to be a little endearing. But oh man, I am so glad they only exist in video games because I could not imagine actually smelling them. Like even according to the Pokédex, Trubbish was created by a chemical reaction in garbage. I usually don't know how much to believe things like this, especially for a Pokemon, but more so I've realized that the franchise doesn't really take itself all that seriously. I mean, we constantly get joke Pokemon that even if the fans outright hate it, the designers are probably sitting back laughing to themselves because that was entirely the point. So yeah, I guess Trubbish really is just a bag of trash. Also, it's apparently so toxic that it can be fatal, like they really want anyone reading the Pokédex entries to feel bad. I think it's pretty funny that they ended up establishing a rivalry between Trubbish and Grimer. Well, not really a rivalry, more like Trubbish smells so terrible that Grimer just want to gobble them up. The population of their evolution Garbodor was even controlled on Alola by just a bunch of Grimer. And yeah, there's even more about this Pokemon in the Pokédex that makes me feel that their stench has definitely killed some people in Pokemon. For such a goofy looking creature, it's honestly pretty dark. When it came to the trading card game, boy this thing was an absolute menace. The Garbodor printed in Dragons Exalted had the ability Garbotoxin. As long as Garbodor has a Pokemon tool attached to it, all Pokemon in play, in the hand, and in the discard pile have no abilities. Yeah, you are required to evolve a Pokemon and make sure it has a Pokemon tool attached to it, but the fact that it shut down all other abilities made it extremely powerful, one of the best ability neutralizers they ever printed. And they basically even stole that ability for Galarian Weezing's ability in the video games. They even gave Garbodor of all Pokemon the shiny treatment, it was so prevalent. Heck, they even just reprinted it in Generation 6, well actually that's a lie, this isn't a reprint, now its attack costs even more energy and it does a bit more damage, plus it has an effect, but that sounds like an upgrade to me. Personally, I don't hate the design of Garbodor, but I am a big fan of how they did the Gigantamax form. Taking the pile of trash Pokemon and making it even bigger was just a kind of genius that needs to be seen. Now a bunch of discarded toys in the body become life-size and they're just chock full of references. I guess you really can say that one man's trash is another man's treasure. There's a building made out of block toys and a wind-up boat. My favorites have got to be the Substitute plush and the Clefairy doll. Seeing the Substitute appear outside of the move animation is always so fun, but the way that the Clefairy doll is clearly torn kind of makes you feel sorry or at least wonder what the story is here. I mean, somebody pulled the I don't want to play with you anymore and now their Clefairy is staring down the opponent during a battle. The toy plant has the same colors and pattern as a Latios, basically making that design come full circle. When you take a look at the back, there's a tail of a fish skeleton, making this a combination Pokemon, I guess. I wonder what exactly it used to be. The idea of continuing the broken toys to the back and giving it a train tail is perfect, especially after traveling by rail across the Galar region. Oh yeah, and did I mention the freaking Master Ball right there? Bro, who misclicked and tossed that out of their bag? Unfortunately, the Pokédex comes along once again to ruin things by stating that those are just masses created by this Pokemon and that they just happen to look like toys. I'm gonna pretend I didn't read that. Because for a Pokemon that is stated to be made out of actual garbage, having some fun recognizable things appear in the body is genuinely such a cool design. While I would have liked some other Generation 5 Pokemon to get a Gigantamax form purely for the aesthetic, I'm pretty happy with what we did get. And finally, giving Garbodor to an important character as her signature Pokemon is another welcome surprise. If you only play the video games, I don't think you got to see the good side of Oleana. She has a stoic look on her face while she's well dressed and seems to be taking care of things pretty well over at Macrocosmos. But if you saw her angry face and just thought, haha, cool evil woman, then you're missing out on one of the best episodes of a Pokemon miniseries. That being episode 5 of Twilight Wings, where we get her backstory and find out that she was a nerd. But seriously, the story begins with her working in one of the research divisions of Macrocosmos, where she and some of the others are attempting to understand the Dynamax phenomenon. Because the scene takes place before the events of Sword and Shield, she has a Trubbish hanging out with her. Oleana is clearly very smart and knows what she's talking about, even if her coworkers get annoyed with her. And that little bit of a guy cutting her off because she's talking so much is kinda sad. It gets to the point where everyone leaves except for her. Then Chairman Rose walks in, impressed by her work, and he compliments her. The phrase he uses here, at least in the English dub,
"To think a diamond in the rough has been hiding here all along."
You can either interpret this as him talking about her research findings or about Oleana herself, which I think that is most likely. The way that everyone else didn't want to hear anything she had to say and that they all left when things got even a little challenging shows how they just did not value her. And now Rose is one of the first people to realize her value, to the point where she not only gets a promotion, but she basically runs the entire company by herself. And the fact that she has a Trubbish in the first place and keeps it as a Garbodor illustrates how she hasn't changed at all. Sure, she's wearing different clothing now and she has done the whole nerd to beauty transformation, but her personality remains the same. Just now she can be herself where she deserves to be. The whole episode is great, and if you haven't watched it, I highly recommend it. It's only like 5 minutes, but you basically get a montage of Oleana girl bossing before sharing a ride in the Corviknight taxi with Chairman Rose. I totally ship it. But I think that's just about the right note to end things on when it comes to Trubbish and Garbodor. Weird, ugly, and very stinky, but definitely not irredeemable. From a rampage in the trading card game to numerous appearances somehow making it cuter to a nice partnership with a beloved human character, this guy has done it all. I don't know what's on the horizon for a Pokemon like this, but given its weirdly fringe popularity, I could honestly see it getting even more love later down the line. Don't be surprised if we see a random stat buff next time it appears, or even a Mega Evolution if Game Freak is feeling daring enough. So let me know what you think about these Pokemon in the comments below. Are you a fan, or do you think they'll never win your heart, which is, you know, fair enough. Anyway, it is Tuesday as I'm recording this, so I should probably go and take out the trash. Thank you to every channel member for your continued support, including the Great Gators, Cemetery Hill, Peel the Genius, SP Jump, Carilli Stromboli, Justin Dowes, Al Rome, Pastel Blood, Cosmo Zero, Mr. Saturn, Rainfrux, Cheez-It62, Switch Cheese, Michael Snyder, Lockadox, Gallantry, Gator Kid 509, TF, Cheeseburger Lasers, Mathaclock 947, The Shadow and Josh Show, Taijirai, Justin R, Phantom, and Quago. If you would like to support, see your name here, and get access to emotes for comments, live streams, and sometimes watch videos early, you can become a channel member today. You can also follow me on Twitter as well for more memes. Anyway, this is GatorX, and I'll catch you all later.
The might of dragons is yours to control. More Pokemon EX and new Dragon-type Pokemon. Pokemon trading card game Black and White Dragons Exalted. In stores now. Each booster pack of 10 cards sold separately. Cards vary by pack. 1 code card per booster pack.